Hello my friends, welcome back to another video. So in today's video I am going to do a balloon roll for the first time ever. Now the last time I had a balloon in my hand on this channel, I had the great idea to put a balloon in wet paint and pop it to see if it would make a pretty design. And let's just say it did make a pretty design all over my face, my teeth, my shirt, my hair. But that's not what this is going to be today. Hopefully the balloon gods are looking down on me and this balloon will not pop. So to do that, I am going to just show you quickly the colors that I'm using. These are colors from the new glass wing butterfly set from COLOURARTE. Let me put on my flash so you can really see how pretty they are. Now these two here I may not use, but I wanted to show you them because they are my favorite colors. So this is called Luna, I believe. And it's a smoky gray with a violet shift. And this is called Angel Wings, I believe. I'm not familiar with the names. It's a kit, so you get all 12 colors. Not that I'm showing all 12, I'm showing you 9, but anyway. This is called Meadow. This is called Chalcedony. This here is Byzantine. This here is Glass Wing. And this set is named after the beautiful glass wing butterfly. This here is called Oasis. So a pretty blue with a green shift. Parisian Lily. And then Isadora. Now the thing that's unique about this particular set is it is a blanket set. So with COLOURARTE products, if it's called a primary element, it's created for acrylic only. Yes, they sell a solution that you can use in your primary elements to make them resin capable. But if you buy colors that are under the blanket category, they can be used in resin or acrylic pouring without having to use any type of solution to make them, ready for the resin. So that's why they are unique. They are 100% mica. There's no added pigment like the primary elements, okay? So I'm going to be using these today. I'm going to be using a pretty palette from Global Paints. Those you can get through Pixel Paint Designs if you're interested. Everything that you see me using, the coupon and the link is in the description. So I'm going to set up. I'll tell you what my colors are mixed with, and then we're going to go. So my white that you're going to see me use, and all of my colors are mixed with Vivid Enamel and Jo Sonia Varnish. That is one way I do this. The other way is to use an untinted deep base paint such as Sherwin-Williams Infinity Base 3. That's the can that I buy. And then I mix into that polyacrylic clear gloss varnish. So let me pop in a picture of the can of the Sherwin-Williams that I use. There, so just in case you want to use that one instead of the Vivid Enamel. So my goal is to not use a white house paint anymore. First, it'll cut down the cost for me. And second, those white wall paints that we buy to put down as our base, they have, a lot of them have a primer in it, even though they say they don't. And that can tend to suck your color up. I don't think they have a non-yellowing agent in them. So, just like your walls that you paint white over the years, they can start to, turn a little tannish on you. So that's another thing about using that paint, that there's nothing in it to stop that from happening. Again, I'm not a scientist when it comes to White House paints, nor do I need to be a scientist on White House paints, but I just want to pass that information along and give you my reasoning as to why I'm trying to cut that step out altogether. So if I can make one pouring medium and use it for all of my acrylic paints and my dry pigments that I use, no matter the brand, Arteza, Pearl-Ex, any of them, then that's a good thing. Alrighty, so first thing I'm going to do is put down my white paint in a crescent moon shape. My plan was to swipe one half and then do balloon rolls along the seam. I really struggled with this, and I figured out why. Balloon rolls are so much easier when you're rolling from one point over the edge versus trying to do them in the center, especially with this recipe that I use, because the paints are thicker. I went to pick up the balloon. It was dripping on me. It was just a total nightmare. So there's a lot of valuable lessons to learn in this. So I hope you watch it. But I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to make a bunch of alterations. Also, for anybody wanting to know how to resin their painting after it's dry, stay tuned to the end. So I'm swiping with my white cell activator, that is Amsterdam white paint mixed with Australian Floetrol. This is real time right here. You can see just how slow I'm going. Make contact with the surface of the paint. My cell activator is already on that piece of paper, and just slide with even pressure. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of color along the seam, and I really didn't need to do that. That was my first mistake. Second mistake was I was afraid to roll the balloon for fear I was going to mess up my pretty swipe. That was the second mistake I made. Third mistake, this right here, putting the paint on the balloon, did not work. So the paint works much better. The cell activator works much better if you put it directly down onto the paint itself. But in a traditional balloon roll, you're not using cell activator. So you wouldn't be putting anything on the balloon. You wouldn't be adding anything to the paint to make it cell up. You would be just rolling your balloon through the paints that are already on the canvas. Another huge help when it comes to balloon rolls specifically, not balloon kisses, balloon rolls, doing them towards the edge and either rolling the balloon backwards over the edge or starting from the edge and rolling in, for some reason makes a much prettier design. The center of the canvas, there's just way too much paint there, especially on this one here. And so when I do my second one for you, I'm going to make sure that I've learned from these mistakes and do a much better job. I had to stop. I'm cracking up over this balloon. I don't know why it looks like a nipple to me, but I just had to say that. I don't know why. Here we go.
You know I'm a hot mess. We all need a little comedic relief in our life, and that's what I am for you, my friend. So look at the balloon, though. I was getting beautiful patterns on the balloon. Just wasn't happening on the canvas where it needed to be. So now you're seeing me at the stage where I say, screw it, let's just go for it. And that's what you need to do in acrylic pouring, because when you reserve yourself, if you're frightened you're going to mess something up, it tends to inhibit the outcome. Once I started getting really just careless, and not careless, but carefree, and just rolling that balloon, it seemed to work a little bit better. But still, no. This is my rendition of roadkill right here. Actually, I've seen roadkill that looks better, but you know, it was all a learning lesson for me, and hopefully for you too. Like I said, make sure you check out the end of this video for all those resin tips. The colors were really, really pretty, even though the whole thing is a mess. The colors themselves are absolutely beautiful. You'll see them here in a minute with the flash on. But yeah, we're just going to let this one dry, call it a loss, and pour over it. So I went to move it and tilted it too much one way, and it started moving. So all the cells are now distorted also, on top of it just being a hot mess. So here are the beautiful glass wing butterfly colors, though. They outshine the ugliness of this painting. And if you're interested, they are in the description along with the 20% off discount. And that discount is off your entire order through COLOURARTE.com. Also, I have all the Amazon link and all those other links that you need down in the description as well. So here is the final shot of Le Tire Ran Through a Beautiful Rainbow. That's what we'll name this one. Oh boy. All right, let's get on to resin really quick.
How to resin your painting. You can either choose to use something like KS Resin's liquidy split ultra UV epoxy, which dries in 3 to 4 hours, full cure in 24 hours, or you can choose to use one of their regular curing resins. I like to use the fast setting resin because I have a lot of pieces to resin. But yeah, they offer multiple options when it comes to coating your painting and or using resin as a medium to do resin art. KS Resin has a long working time. It says 45 plus minute working time. I usually get about an hour and 15 minutes. And if I'm using it for resin art, I usually get about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what kind of pigments I'm using to color it. If you're using things such as acrylic paint, acrylic ink, things like that will speed up the open time for your resin. It will make it not last as long. But if you use actual resin pigments, micas, spray paints, and alcohol inks, those two specifically will extend the work time. So if I use something like a spray paint to color my resin or alcohol ink, I get about an hour and a half out of it before it starts to see any type of thickness. But anyway, I digress. So we're coating a painting today. This is what I'm using. I'm going to show you how I mix, how I measure, how I coat, and give you some tips along the way. So here we go. When it comes to what you're mixing your resin in and what you're using, I highly suggest you use some form of a paper cup and that you keep it inside of its packaging until you're ready to use it. Dust is everywhere, my friends. So really quick, if these cups are out in the open, sitting, waiting for me to use them, they are collecting dust inside. So you want to keep them away from the open air environment as much as you can. That goes for anything that you use for resin, whether it be your stir sticks, the cups, your spreading tools, all that. Keep it somewhere where dust can't get to it. Another thing, if you're using wooden stir sticks, make sure you inspect them really close. Look at the edges. Make sure there's no little slivers of wood hanging off that can knock off into your resin. Make sure they don't have sawdust on them from when they were cut, things like that. Dollar Tree sells stir sticks like this, and they are notorious for having sawdust and little splinters on the edges. So inspect them thoroughly. My personal opinion when it comes to using reusable silicone cups for mixing your resin, I will not use them. Here is why. If you have one and you mix up your resin for it in the first time, they're lovely. You let the resin cure in there, whatever's left, and then you peel it right out and use it again, right? Here's the thing. If you put your finger inside that reusable silicone cup and feel, you'll feel all little tiny beads of resin that you can't get out. So essentially what happens when you reuse that cup, you are mixing your resin again and you're knocking those little beads off of the side of the cup back into your new resin. So that's why I highly suggest using paper cups. How do I measure? What I do is I'll use one plastic cup and I will use these lines for measurements. So this is 6 ounces of resin. I know this right here is going to, or this is 6 ounces, the cup. This painting right here, which is a 12-inch, will take a minimum of 4 ounces of resin. I like to do a little bit more. So I would say it's going to take 5 ounces of resin. You always want to have an ounce extra just to coat the sides and if you need to add a little bit more for some reason. So 5 ounces of resin I need. This is a 6-ounce cup. Now, you know, resin is a 2-part thing. So for 5 ounces of resin, I need 2.5 ounces of hardener, 2.5 ounces of resin. So what I'll do is you can kind of eyeball. If you know this is going to be 6 ounces, if it's full, we need it to come up to about here. All right. Always have a coaster that needs coating or a silicone mold sitting by in case you have a little tiny bit of resin left over. But so I know it's going to have to come up to about here. So what I'll do is I'll pour my hardener up to this 3rd line, dump it into my paper cup, put my resin into the 3rd line, dump it into my paper cup, and that's going to equal about 5 ounces. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but it's not going to be enough for it to matter. Once your painting is dry and you have had it sitting somewhere, even if it's in a baker's rack with a plastic cover that's zippered, I'm telling you, dust finds its way in there. So you have to take some type of a soft cloth. Do not use paper towels because they shed lint from them, the fibers. Something like a really soft microfiber cloth or something like that, or something that's coarse, like a napkin from a fast food restaurant that doesn't shed. Spray it with some rubbing alcohol and wipe it down really good. All right. You have to clean the surface first before you resin your painting, which I already did. So you have to clean it, or else there's going to be resin in here or dust in this finish if you don't clean it off.
So I'm just measuring my hardener, putting that in first. Always put the hardener in first because it is the easiest to get off of the sides of the cup when you're mixing. Then add your resin.
Okay, so you have part A, part B in your cup. You're going to start mixing for 3-4 minutes. And while you're mixing, you're going to remember to multiple times throughout the 3 or 4 minutes, scrape down your sides all the way around, scrape your bottom. You're going to remember to scrape off your stick, front and back and sides. Okay? And you're going to do that a couple of times throughout the process to make sure you get every little drop of unmixed hardener and or resin. Okay? So I'm going to mix this up for 3 minutes. I will be back. Now, it's normal to get a ton of air bubbles in here. The torch or the heat gun will pop them. You just have to do it multiple times, and I'll talk about that when I'm at that step. Okay, so another tip. I had you wipe down your canvas. You wipe down the top, you wipe down the sides. Guess what? These edges, because they're a little bit sometimes rough, more so than the top is, they can hold on to dust very well. So when you're applying your resin, put it on your piece like this, okay? And then tilt it around until it goes over the edges. Once it goes over the edges, then you can rub your hand around the edge and be done with it. If you touch your edges, I highly suggest that you do not go back up to the surface with that same glove, because there's a good chance there may be a hair or something that is caught on the side of the canvas that you have now reintroduced into the top of your resin coat. Now, again, I mentioned that this was a fast setting resin, so we only have 15 minutes to work with this one. So this is just for coating, or if you're doing a resin art project and it's got multiple steps to it and you want a little bit of a faster curing resin, then you can use it like for if you're doing a geode or something like that. So I'm sorry for the horrible view right now, but we're going over the edge here. I'm just letting it come off the edge. Also, if you're working on paper or plastic or a silicone mat, you do not want to be scooping your resin off of that surface and reapplying it to the top of your painting, because again, if it's sitting out in the open air, if you have a resin station and there's a piece of plastic that's on the table and it's clean, but it's been sitting there for 2 or 3 days, there is dust that has collected on that plastic. So if I go and swipe my hand on that plastic to pick up some resin, I'm going to go and wipe it right back into my painting. So this is the best way right here, what I'm doing to get a nice flawless finish. Okay, so I'm over the edge here. I got one more spot I need to get it over. And now I'm good. So now I can take my glove, go around the edges, smooth it out. Just like that. And you know, I know a lot of people are worried about wasting resin because it's so expensive, but I literally wasted here maybe 1/4 of an ounce, and it's a lot better to waste an ounce than to have to recoat this and do 6-7 ounces, or if it's a big painting, even more. So I'm all done. That's it. Now I get to torch my painting, look for any type of hair, and I'm going to put it away. And I'm going to show you how I look for hair and dust. First, I'm going to give this a nice quick torch. I will torch it one more time in about 5-10 minutes to make sure I didn't miss any air bubbles. And then be done with it. All right, so it's been sitting for 10 minutes here. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to torch it one more time. Good lighting is very important. If you can get natural daylight, that is the best. But you have to pick up this painting and shift it around to see everything that may be in it. Just looking straight down and glancing over sometimes doesn't work. I know looking straight down doesn't work at all. You miss a lot like that. So you have to remember, we have these very chaotic designs in the background distracting us. So pick up your painting and shift it around. Now, it is highly suggested that you do 2 coats. 1 coat is pretty, but if you do 2 coats, you'll get the nice rounded look on the edges, which is what I like to go for. So I picked it up, I looked it around. There's nothing in the surface at all. I'm going to put her away immediately.
And here we are, 6 hours later, a flawless finish. So it is definitely doable on 1 layer. Now, I usually do 2 layers because I like the edges, as I mentioned, to be nice and rounded. But you can get a flawless finish on the first edge, providing there are no bumps in your paint or any imperfections that protrude from the canvas. It can be done on 1 layer. Before I run out of time here, I would love to thank you for joining me. This painting and the 2 mixed media spoons that I made that you are going to see next are going to be going up in my Etsy shop. If you are interested in them, send me an email, ARTBYTAMMY@yahoo.com. Don't forget to subscribe. The discount for KS Resin is also in the description, along with many other links to my Amazon shop, all of my social media platforms. Please follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I post mini videos up on there. And join our Facebook group, United We Pour Fluid Art Group. So until the next one, take care of yourself. I love you all, and happy pouring.